I asked one of the nurses, a young girl, I asked her, I said, well, how long do you think it'll be? She said, oh, 30 minutes at the most. So they left. I started thumbing through a magazine that was just there. Then it dawned on me, I said, well, it's been more than 30 minutes. And right after I thought that, I heard Code Blue come over the intercom. That's when I started thinking something was wrong. Shortly afterward, the nurse came in, so he took me back to the emergency room ICU. I saw her just laying there with a trach or something in. But the reality is, because of the incident, she never came home.
Leonard Benny Moore's husband came to us because she met with a bariatric surgeon, which is a surgeon who does stomach surgery. She was having what was called an EGD, which is a procedure where they would go through her mouth, esophagus, and into her stomach to be sure there was nothing abnormal about her structurally before they would then schedule a date for the major surgery. PAA Trogdon didn't notice that she had stopped breathing, but it had been too long. And it turned out that Benny Moore was brain dead and would never wake up from this procedure that day. And then when she did wake up, she was so damaged in her brain and other organs that she ended up about 6 weeks later dying from a combination of infection, sepsis, and end-stage organ damage.
I remember my dad came home and then he was like, you know, we lost her. And I just felt really broken inside, really sad. I didn't expect it. So I just kind of was like at a loss of emotions. And I remember watching the ball drop because it was New Year's Eve. So it always makes New Year's Eve really hard for me.
I went to another law firm. They took my case initially, and after about 3 or 4 weeks, I came home and there was a FedEx box sitting right outside my door. And inside they had a note that said, unfortunately, we cannot accept your case. So I waited about 3 days and I was sitting there watching TV one day and the advertisement, a commercial came on the television for McArthur Law Firm. And I said, well, maybe I'll go ahead and talk with them, see if they'll take the case. When I initially called McArthur Law Firm, I got on the phone with Kathy. She didn't brush the case off or anything. She said, give me everything that they sent you in the mail. And we'll give you a call in a couple days. We'll let you know whether or not we can take the case or not. And sure enough, she called me on the phone and she said, well, we decided that we're going to take your case. And I was so grateful for that because I felt like, at the very least, someone was listening. Someone was paying attention to what happened to my wife. But when it was all said and done, and I heard that verdict read, and I'll admit I shed a few tears. I was very emotional that day, but I felt like, at the very least, we got justice for her. So someone gets to know that she didn't pass away in vain.
We had to prove the case against 2 different medical providers who had 2 different roles in Benny Moore's treatment. Of course, the anesthesia assistant was the one primarily responsible for Ms. Moore's anesthesia during the procedure, but she was supposed to be supervised by MD physician anesthesiologists. And one of the challenges that we faced was proving that the anesthesiologist was not as involved in her care as he should have been, and that contributed to the outcome that ultimately resulted in Ms. Moore's death.
Leonard was a working person, although he had retired by the time the case went forward. He was a funny person, and he told stories about Benny Moore that made her come alive to the jury. I was extremely happy with the way the jury handled it. It was just very close to the best possible result we could have gotten for the family.
Every single witness that we had from friends, family members, and then Leonard and Leah themselves testified about how Benny and Leonard were just a match made in heaven. So getting to talk them through that, the way to convey that to a jury is using stories about things that had happened in the past or things that were getting ready to happen that Benny didn't get to see. And even though it's sad, I think that's one of the ways that we provide meaning to someone's life, is getting to tell those stories to a jury and have a jury think about what is the value of something like that that really is impossible to put a dollar value on. But when you think about what would it take to compensate somebody for all those missed memories, makes it all worth it.
Watching everything unfold with the trial, I was just really impressed. I guess that's really all I can say. I remember I was very impressed with them, how comfortable they made me feel explaining everything. I think they did a really good job.
What I will tell people, just listening to me now, I would not hesitate. I wouldn't look for any other lawyers. I would run to the McArthur Law Firm. I would run there literally.